on to video number 2. Something else that I've been doing recently is I've been just reading more about my family history. This came about because my uncle, my dad's brother, had recently put together some autobiographical writings that my grandfather, my dad's dad, had written during his lifetime about his childhood as a young boy growing up in Wootton, the village of Wootton, on the Isle of Wight. And my uncle put together a book called Pon My Puff, A Childhood in 1920s Isle of Wight, which where he put together the writings of my grandfather into a book form, and got it published as a book. So I've been reading this, and it was very interesting, and very, I guess you could call it, cottagecore, because my grandfather grew up in Wootton in the 1920s on the Isle of Wight, a village on the Isle of Wight, before the age of the motor car, when it's still horse and cart, with chickens in the garden. And it was very interesting to find out more about that history. I'd already known that I had a history on the Isle of Wight, but I didn't realise how far it stretched back, right back to the 15th century on my dad's side, which is very interesting. They were actually given labouring rights by the king in the 15th century. So there's quite a lot of history that I think still needs to be explored, and maybe after COVID I might be able to go down to the record office there and check it out maybe one day in the future. But yeah, a lot of people in my dad's side of the family were in the Royal Navy, so they were out at sea. They were seamen in the Navy, and there was also my dad's grandmother, who was called Annie Ethel, but was known as Ethel, was the school teacher. She taught at primary school, and she later on set up shop. She actually had a store selling furniture, and quite a few people in the family had set up small shops, grocery stores selling furniture and other odds and ends, as well as being in the Navy. So a kind of, but they were mainly in the Navy. And my grandfather himself went into the merchant navy, but he got demobilised in the Second World War because he was in a submarine accident. And then while he was actually nursed in hospital by my grandmother, my dad's mother, who helped nurse him back to recovery. And she actually was she was a refugee from the Holocaust. She came over from Germany. Her family were Jewish. She lost her parents in the Holocaust, but she and her siblings survived. And and she met my grandfather when my grandfather was recovering from his submarine accident, my dad's dad, and they got together. So they got together. But yeah, I didn't really know much about my dad's history until I'd read this book. I knew you got a connection to the Isle of Wight, but I didn't realise how far back it went, and that's really cool because I love the Isle of Wight. So it's just really nice knowing that I have that sort of family history on the island, because I do really enjoy the Isle of Wight, and I'd spent lots of lovely holidays there as a kid as well. So yeah, and it's got some really interesting pictures in here, and it's just really funny seeing pictures go back in the past. So we've got here Annie Ethel Stark, which is my dad's grandmother, Annie Ethel Stark, so that's my dad's grandmother, so that'd be my great-grandmother, and Percy Lansley, who was away at sea a lot of the time, on their engagement in 1908. There they are. It's very interesting seeing these old pictures, dressed up in Edwardian costume, and that was the, here we've got the Woodside Villa, where the house where my grandfather lived as a small child. So it's quite a nice house in the village. And that building there was actually a shop that was in the family, in my ancestors' family. They had quite a long line of shopkeepers. And there's another picture that I wanted to show you. What was it? Just try and find it. Oh yes. So my great grandparents were called William and Harriet, and their children were Millie Adolphus, who was known as Will, Harry, Annie Ethel, and this picture was taken in 1902. And that person there, where my finger is on, she was my great-grandmother, Annie Ethel, who was a school teacher. She became a primary school teacher on the Isle of Wight. And this picture here is of Harriet and William Stark, taken in 1913, so that would be my great-grandparents. And here we've got Annie, Ethel, Harriet. So Annie, Ethel, Harriet, and my grandfather, who was called Peter, at approximately 21 years of age. So that's my grandfather there as a young man. Because he lived with my grandfather lived with his grandparents and his mother, because his father, Percy, was away at sea most of the time, so he didn't really see much of his father. So it was really interesting finding out a bit more about my family history on my dad's side, and what was going on in that side of the family. Because I'd read my other grandfather's book, my mum's father book about his childhood, and he grew up in the Midlands, in Birmingham, and his father was actually a sanitary inspector, worked for the local council, and he grew up in the Midlands. So I've read about his childhood and know a little bit about his. I really want to find out more though about because I just find family history so interesting, because there's so many different kind of threads, and different. Like you sort of want to find out. You sort of want to go back in time. You want to find out more about what happened earlier in history. Like. Obviously, I don't know. Obviously, with my grandmother, her history was complicated because of the Nazis, and her family originally came from the Ukraine, and they moved to Germany sort of around the turn of the 20th century. Her ancestors, because they originally came from Ukraine. As Jews, are often on the move, and then obviously were persecuted by the Nazis. And then she had to flee when she was 16 years old. Came over from the Kinderfleet. So I don't really know. Obviously, I'd have to go over to Germany and find out if I wanted to find out more, but I don't really know too much about that history. But let me know if any of you are interested in family history, and if you know anything about your family and their origins. I'd be very interested to know. So I don't really think I've got much more to say really. I think I've covered everything. I mean, I'm still stuck at home. Obviously, I had my first vaccine just over 2 weeks ago now. Obviously, it won't be until week 3 where I start to have, the full protection. Obviously, you need 2 jabs before you have obviously, you need to have 2 jabs before you have, before you're truly properly protected. But you have to wait 3 weeks after the first before you even have the basic protection. So I'm getting there. At least I know next week I need to have some protection, even though it's not with complete protection yet. But I'm not. I probably have quite a lot of antibodies circulating in my system already, to be fair. But I'm not taking any chances, and I'm playing it very safe, and I'm not changing anything until I've had my second jab at least, which is on the 10th of September. So I've got to wait another 6 weeks. Again, obviously, actually, technically speaking, I'll have to wait about 8 weeks, because then you have to wait a number of time before you have full protection. It's not like your body, you have to wait several weeks after the vaccine, to have the full protection. So let's call it 8 weeks, but 6 weeks until I actually have a second jab. But 8 weeks until I feel I have full protection, if you see what I mean. It's not going to be like I'm going to be suddenly able to get back to normal after again. It's going to be a really, really long, slow process. But at least it will make me feel not as worried when I'm out and about. It won't make me feel quite as worried when I'm out on my walk, and I might be able to stay out a bit longer and not feel quite so worried. I won't feel quite as anxious, I think, when I'm out on my walk. Which, even if it's just a reduction in anxiety, as simple as that, is still going to be very good for my mental health. So, in the meantime, it's just business as usual, really. I go out for a walk. I go out for a brisk run every day, to stay fit and healthy. I sort of combine a brisk walk and a run. I don't run consistently, but I run periodically and brisk walk. So it's like half walk, half brisk walk, half run, if you see what I mean. But I run up hills, and try and get some leg work in and try and stay fit that way. I can't do more than that. But it is stressful because I hate going out, and it's really stressful because I feel, vulnerable when I'm out and about. Particularly when I see people walking in groups, I'm always avoiding people and feeling stressed because you never know when people are going to suddenly emerge and that. Even though I know logically it's very safe outside, it's not like I'm inside or anything, but I still worry, So it's not like I can't really go out and relax, with my OCD it's really hard. So yeah, I'm pretty much confined to the house apart from that. But like I say, once I've had the second jab, my hope will be that I can maybe extend the amount of time I'm outside, because I won't feel quite so anxious about people when he's not outside. Once I've had my second jab, I don't know how long it's going to be before I can feel comfortable to go inside again where people are. It's probably going to take a lot longer. I probably won't be until sometime next year. We'll just have to see how it goes. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed watching this video, and thank you for watching.